Good evening, everybody. October 31st, 2021. I'm going to start tonight by looking at the monthly on Bitcoin here. Today was the monthly close, the weekly close, and daily close, of course, as well. We had the highest closing monthly ever in Bitcoin history this month. Right here on the Bitstamp chart, closed at about 61,359, which you can see is higher than it had closed previously. We also, during that month, made a new high, an all-time high, with that wick there earlier in the month. So the question is now, where do we go from here? And I've answered that question in the mid to long term repeatedly now with basically 80K as a minimum at this point, and very likely somewhere higher in the hundreds or even 200K depending on how we go. The question really is what happens in the short term, right? And this monthly close doesn't really tell us too much, except for we're bullish obviously in the long term. But like back here, we kind of closed, if you look right here, we closed the month about where, the previous monthly high was. And then immediately followed, the next month was very green. There was a slight dip right at the beginning, and then the rest of the month was very green. So I believe that's probably what we're going to see. But we'll have to wait and see. Because the alternative would be, if you look back here, this was the previous in 2013. This was the previous monthly high here, closing high, and then we saw this candle right here close above it, and the next month was actually just kind of choppy. It went up, it went down, and kind of spanned the whole thing, and then was followed by the upwards motion after that. So it is possible. It's something to keep in mind anyway. If you're doing any short-term trading, it's important to keep a look, keep an eye on those short-term charts to kind of give you a clue as to what's going on. It's not something that you can say like, oh, Bitcoin closed the month above, and so we're definitely going straight up from here. It's not necessarily the case. It can certainly come down and try to shake you out in the meantime before going up. Does not change my opinion, obviously, like I said, of the higher time frames. I think we're going significantly higher. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the hourly chart here on Binance and see if there's anything that we can pick out of this. So at the moment, not really. This is still pretty much doing exactly what I was expecting. We really had this super choppy action, not productive action off of the lows here. And so I said on Friday, we're very likely to have sort of a sideways weekend. And that is in fact what we had here. So pretty much my analysis remains the same. As long as we remain above 57.8 and below 63.7, anything else that happens in here is just chop. It's not exactly what I wanted to see, and I definitely want to see a stronger move start happening up off of these lows in order to say that we're going to be heading much higher in the short term, and to take off the possibility of this diagonal, which is still a possibility that we may come down a little bit lower. But so below 57.8 is probably not great news. There technically is support still all throughout this green box that we could see down to 55, even if we break down. But I think if we did break down, it's probably more likely that we're heading down to lower 50K area, maybe even 49. If we go below 57.8, we'll just have to see what happens there. And likewise, if we break above, this is a much cleaner level. If we break above 63.7, then almost guaranteed we should be seeing higher highs. But the problem, like I said, now is that this action off the lows has just not really been inspiring at all. And hopefully we can chalk that up to just being, weekend action, basically. Let me see if there's anything we can talk about on the daily. Not really. So we just kind of have to wait and see how this area kind of resolves itself here. I did have this green support box drawn on here as a potential ABC down. We had the reaction from that, but now we're dipping back down into it. So what that means is kind of anybody's guess, but the most bullish thing that I can say right now is that it's Sunday night, and pretty much typically whatever happens on Sunday night is complete BS. It's meant to shake out American traders basically before they go to sleep, and then it can reverse overnight basically. So don't get shaken out by this action. Like I said, pretty much anything above 57.8 and we're still in good shape, I think, because this action here this was all pretty clear, but yeah, I don't know, I can't say it any other way. I'm a little bit cautious right now. I have loaded up on some longs, down in this area, but I am a little cautious and apprehensive that we didn't end up pushing higher. The weekend would have been a really good time to do that. The other thing we can look at is Bitcoin futures on the CME chart. I talked about this, how we end up having gaps form, and so we do have a gap right now. This would be considered a bullish gap, and we would anticipate it getting filled at some point. Doesn't have to fill immediately, but oftentimes these gaps do get filled sooner rather than later. So at a minimum, I would say we should probably get a push up here to 63 to fill that gap. On Friday it closed at 63K, and then we opened today at 62, and we've dumped since then basically, which is probably, a bunch of people were anticipating going up to fill the gap immediately, and that almost never happens. So this dump is probably manipulation in order to shake out those people who were playing for the gap fill. So yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. Let me go back up here, just make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see what the RSI looks like. PPO. This doesn't really tell us anything except for potentially more chop. Yeah. All right, well, I've got nothing further to add on Bitcoin right now, short term. So I'm just holding on to my positions, and we'll see what happens. In the meantime, don't let the chop shake you out of anything. Nothing is broken so far. It's just not super inspiring. So, all right, guys, good night. Hopefully we get some pumpage overnight to kind of rectify this situation a little bit. Alrighty, see you later.